I didn't subscribe to this channel. Not ever. And yet, there it was, staring back at me like it had been waiting in the dark corners of the internet just for me. The title froze me. Jenish Kumar, November 5th, 2002. My name. My exact birth date. No description, no uploader name I recognized. Just those words, glowing ominously on my screen. I blinked, thinking it was some glitch, some cruel coincidence. But deep down, a cold, crawling dread told me otherwise. At first, I hesitated. Part of me wanted to close the tab, pretend I hadn't seen it, pretend the normal rules of reality still applied. But another part, a darker, morbid curiosity, made me click. The video loaded instantly, no buffering, no delay, as if it had known I would. The first frame was my room. My room. The one I'd left untouched all day. The one I locked behind a door I assumed was private. And there I was, sitting at my desk in real life, staring at a screen that was now showing me myself. The more I watched, the more the hair on my arms stood on end. Small, innocuous details were all too accurate. The worn coffee mug on my desk, the cracked corner of my laptop screen, the faint scuff on the wooden floor. Nothing in this video should have been possible. Nothing except that it was all there, recorded or somehow known in advance. A part of me screamed that I was losing my mind, but even as that thought crept in, the screen flickered. And for a brief moment, I could swear I saw movement behind me. Movement that wasn't there when I turned. I checked the uploader again. No profile, no channel, no history. The video existed in a void, unlisted, unreachable by anyone else, yet somehow perfectly tailored to me. Every instinct told me to turn away, to close the tab and pretend I'd never seen it. But the video had already done something to me. It had inserted a seed of fear, a quiet, persistent question. How could it know? I leaned back in my chair, heart hammering, trying to convince myself it was some kind of hack, a coincidence, a sick joke. But even as rational explanations formed in my mind, the nagging feeling lingered. Something about this video was forbidden, something that shouldn't exist in the first place, and yet here it was, whispering across the digital void directly into my life. My cursor hovered over the pause button, but I couldn't bring myself to press it. And in that moment I realized this wasn't just a video. This was a warning or maybe an invitation, and either way I had no idea how it would end. Before that day, my life was nothing remarkable, at least nothing worth fear. I had my routines, my little online habits, and a general skepticism about the countless creepy videos and posts that circulated on Reddit or YouTube. I'd scroll past them with a smirk, sometimes laugh at the ridiculous titles, and occasionally share the most absurd ones with my friends. Look at this, I'd say, sending them a link to a supposedly haunted webcam feed or a cursed game download. Classic internet nonsense. They'd roll their eyes, I'd roll mine back, and life would move on. Most mornings, I'd wake around 7, roll out of bed groggy but functional, and brew the same coffee my mom insisted I should drink black, because, she claimed, sugar was poison for geniuses like me. I'd sit at my desk, open my laptop, check my emails, scroll through notifications, and then dive into YouTube or Reddit for a half hour before starting homework or work. My room was tidy, almost obsessively so, with the faint smell of coffee lingering on the desk and the soft hum of my computer in the background. On weekends, I'd meet friends online or play games late into the night, headphones on, oblivious to the world outside my window. That was my life. Ordinary, safe, and predictably boring. I had always been the rational one in my circle. My friends Ravi, Mira, and Arjun liked to chase the strange and unusual, the paranormal forums and mysterious internet threads, but I always held back. You don't really believe that crap, right? I'd ask them, half amused, half condescending. It's just people trolling or edited footage. Nothing's actually real. They'd laugh, sometimes insist I was missing out, sometimes roll their eyes back at me. We were teenagers, young adults really glued to our screens, living in the digital world more than the real one, but I had boundaries. There were things online I never touched. The deep web, unlisted videos, cryptic forum threads with warning labels. I didn't need to know. And yet, somehow, something always found a way to creep in. Minor coincidences at first. A notification popping up exactly when I thought of a message. A YouTube recommendation that felt too personal. Little things that seemed trivial at the moment, but now, in hindsight, they were warning signs. I would sometimes shake my head, laugh nervously, and say, "Okay, that's weird, but probably just luck." My skepticism kept me sane, kept me grounded, and allowed me to dismiss the creeping unease that was slowly threading itself into my daily life. Family dinners, quick chats with my mom about her garden or my sister's latest obsession with TikTok trends, text messages with friends planning the weekend, they were all anchors in the ordinary world. And I clung to them. I remember joking with Arjun one night over Discord, "If a YouTube video ever predicted my death, I just unsubscribed from life." He laughed, but there was no hint that any of us could imagine what was actually possible. Even my tech habits were methodical. I backed up my drives, updated my software, cleared browser history, and double-checked privacy settings. I was careful, meticulous, rational. That's why the moment I saw that video, titled with my name and birthday, my instincts screamed at me like a warning siren. It shouldn't have existed. No one should have had that information. And yet, somehow it had been delivered directly to me, quietly waiting for me to notice. It wasn't just the video that unnerved me. It was the feeling that, somehow, I was already being watched, observed through some hidden digital lens. And for the first time, I questioned all my rules, my skepticism, and the safety I had taken for granted. Every routine I'd followed, every precaution I'd made, now felt fragile, irrelevant, as if they existed in a world that had been quietly replaced by something far more unsettling. At first, it was subtle, harmless, almost laughable. I noticed that the video seemed to anticipate minor, everyday things that, in isolation, could easily be written off as coincidence. A message from Mira popped up on my phone, and almost immediately, the video showed me typing my reply. Not as a reflection, but as if it had recorded the exact keystrokes before I had even sent them. I laughed nervously and muttered, "Okay, weird, maybe just a glitch." By the next day, the predictions grew more specific. A missed call from my dad appeared on my phone at precisely 3:17 p.m., and the video, timestamped the same, paused on my empty living room with the ringing sound faint but perfectly synced. My friends thought I was joking when I described it over Discord. "Wait, you're telling me a YouTube video? What? Your dad was calling you?" Ravi asked, skepticism dripping from his tone. "Yes," I said, voice shaky, trying to sound casual. "Exactly. Like I didn't even pick up the phone yet. It just showed it happening." Mira snorted. "Sounds like some kind of delayed notification bug." "Chill, Jenish." I wanted to laugh too. I wanted to believe her. But the unease had already sunk in, curling around my ribs like icy fingers. Every mundane prediction was now a puzzle piece forcing itself into a picture I didn't want to see. My brain kept trying to rationalize it. Algorithmic coincidence, random chance, some clever deep web hack. But the more I tried, the less believable that sounded. It wasn't just phone calls or messages anymore. The video began reflecting my daily routines with eerie precision. I brushed my teeth, and the screen mirrored my reflection before I even leaned over the sink. I made coffee, and the steam rising from my mug appeared on the video 2 seconds before I poured it. Even the way my cat jumped onto the windowsill seemed choreographed in that digital frame. I remember muttering to myself, "Okay, now this is officially messed up," but I couldn't tear my eyes away. I tried involving my friends more. Arjun was especially skeptical. "Jenish, it's probably just timing coincidences. You're freaking yourself out." "I don't think so," I said, almost pleading. "It's like it's learning me. It knows the way I do everything. Every small action, every stupid little habit." My voice trailed off. I didn't want to admit the next thought, but it was there, gnawing at me. What if this thing could predict everything? Cold humor became my only defense. I joked online to Mira. At this point, I expect it to predict my sneeze or when I stub my toe. But the joke felt hollow. I started noticing patterns that defied any normal explanation. Small things, like the exact order I stacked my notebooks on my desk, were replicated in the video. Even the way I hummed while making tea was mirrored. At first, I laughed nervously, then realized I wasn't really laughing at all. I was checking, double-checking, trying to find a glitch, a reflection, anything that could make this seem normal. The line between reality and the video's reflection blurred. One night, as I scrolled through notifications, the video paused on my screen at the exact frame I looked down at my phone. I felt my pulse spike. My room felt smaller, my chair too large. Even the familiar hum of the computer sounded alien. It was learning me, adapting. And the scariest part? I wasn't sure if it had been doing this from the very start, or if it had evolved since I discovered it. By now, my skepticism had frayed. I could no longer dismiss the coincidences. Even my friends' teasing, their disbelief, couldn't shield me from the creeping realization. This video wasn't just observing me. It was anticipating me, predicting the small events that made up the fabric of my day. And the thought that it might soon move from the mundane to the intimate, the personal, made my stomach churn. I shut my laptop that night, the glow of the screen fading into darkness, but the feeling didn't leave. Something in the back of my mind whispered that this was only the beginning, that the video wasn't satisfied with text messages or coffee mugs. It wanted more, and I didn't know how to stop it. It started small at first, almost innocuously. A shelf in my room I hadn't noticed in years appeared in the video's frame, its books slightly rearranged, the tiny figurine of a dragon I had bought online perched just where I'd left it. I told myself it was a coincidence, a camera angle trick, maybe a glitch, but deep down, I knew better. That night, as I lay on my bed scrolling aimlessly, the video played in the background, and I froze. My desktop wallpaper, a simple black and white landscape I'd chosen months ago, flashed across the screen, and then it changed. A new image, a photograph I had taken yesterday of my messy desk. Not for my files, this was the live scene, in real time, captured as if the video had eyes. I tried to laugh it off. Classic creepypasta, I whispered to myself, shaking my head. Some hacker or whatever trying to freak me out. But the unease lingered, clinging to the edges of my mind like a wet fog. I began noticing subtle changes. My social media posts reflected instantly in the video, notifications popping up in sync, messages I had just typed appearing as though the video was predicting every move before my fingers even hit the keys. I felt my pulse tighten. If you're watching this, I realized, this might be happening to you too. The most unsettling part was the familiarity. The video didn't just show my room. It displayed my habits. The exact way I pushed my chair back, the tilt of my laptop screen when I opened it, even the way my hands hovered over the keyboard before typing. It was like the video was learning me, dissecting me, anticipating my every action. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had always scoffed at the idea of online curses or digital hauntings, and now, the screen in front of me was laughing at that disbelief. I tried to tell my friends, "Guys, this is weird," I said one night over a group call. "It's showing my room, everything I do. It's like it's alive." "Jenny, come on," Mira replied, half amused, half exasperated. "This sounds exactly like one of those nosleep stories you always mock. Maybe take a break from the internet." "I'm serious," I said, my voice tight. "It's not a story. It knows things it shouldn't know. Every move I make, it's predicting. I can't explain it." Ravi snorted. "Yeah, sure. Next, you'll tell us your cat is in on it too." Their disbelief only made the isolation heavier. Every laugh, every dismissive comment, felt like another wall closing in. I started recording my own observations, trying to capture proof, evidence, anything that could show I wasn't losing my mind. But even then, a part of me knew it was futile. The video seemed always one step ahead. One evening, I left my camera running as I walked around the room. When I returned, I watched the footage and froze. In the video, my chair had already been pushed back, my laptop slightly angled differently, even before I had moved. I rubbed my eyes. Maybe it was a trick of editing, some clever playback manipulation. But every logical explanation evaporated under the cold, creeping certainty. It was real. I began noticing small, cruel touches of the uncanny. The video would sometimes pause on a frame where I wasn't even looking, framing my back or a shadow on the wall just so. A notification would pop up exactly as I glanced at my phone. Even when I left the room, it felt as if it knew. My home, the place that had always been my sanctuary, was no longer mine. The contrast was unbearable. What should have been safe, familiar, comforting, had been invaded, observed, dissected, and somehow replicated in this digital space. And yet, I couldn't stop watching. The fascination, the dread, the need to understand, kept pulling me back. I joked sometimes, muttering to myself in the darkness, "Classic creepypasta. Everything's exaggerated. Nothing like this could actually happen." But I stopped laughing quickly when the next frame appeared. A notification from an old forum I'd forgotten about, one I hadn't logged into for months. And there I was, live on screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard exactly as they were in reality. It was at that point I realized this wasn't just a video. It wasn't just a digital recording. It was something else, something that learned, adapted, anticipated. The fear wasn't just that it existed. The fear was that it could reach me anywhere, in real time, and I had no idea why or how. By the end of the week, I was living in a constant state of tension. My friends' jokes and disbelief no longer brought comfort. They highlighted my isolation. I spent hours monitoring the video, comparing it with my own movements, making notes, recording my own footage. Every day, I caught it predicting something new. The way I poured water into my glass, the angle of my hoodie as I slouched in my chair, the text I'd send to Ravi minutes before I actually typed it. It was evolving, and the more it evolved, the less safe I felt in the one place that had always been mine. I started to see patterns, subtle hints that this might not just be technological, not just a clever hack. There was something almost supernatural in the precision, the immediacy. And with that realization came a chilling thought. If it could know this much, what else could it know? What limits did it even have? I didn't want to admit it out loud, but the truth was unavoidable. The video wasn't just predicting my day anymore. It was predicting me. And the realization, once it hit, left a lingering, suffocating dread that nothing, friends, logic, humor, could shake. In a desperate attempt to make sense of what was happening, I turned to the one place the internet always promised answers: forums. Late at night, my laptop's glow cutting through the darkness of my room, I scrolled through obscure boards, cryptic threads, and abandoned subreddits until I stumbled on something familiar: r/nosleep. At first, I only meant to browse, to see if anyone else had ever experienced a video like mine. But as I scrolled, my heart began to hammer. There were posts describing the exact same thing. Unlisted videos appearing out of nowhere, tailored to specific people, predicting events with unsettling accuracy. I thought I was alone, one post read. But then the video appeared. It knew everything: my room, my desk, even my habits. It's only a matter of time. I clicked through thread after thread. Comments ranged from dismissive jokes to chilling accounts of users claiming the videos predicted death, accidents, or disappearances. One user wrote, "I thought it was coincidence at first. Now I know better. The video waits, it watches, it learns, and it chooses." My hands trembled, hovering over the keyboard. I had never felt more exposed, more acutely aware of how thin the veil between normalcy and something unimaginable could be. Even the discussion style was unnerving. People posted cryptic warnings, hints of methods to avoid detection or buy time, but none seemed to guarantee safety. It was a mix of folklore and code, advice hidden in riddles. Do not respond to the frame. Do not comment on the post. Never ignore the notification. I read those lines again and again, feeling a creeping sense of dread. I had already seen and reacted to every frame. Was I already too far gone? I shared a brief account in a comment, trying to test the waters. Has anyone else had a video show your exact room and predict actions before you did them? I hit post and waited. Within minutes, replies appeared, some skeptical, some terrifyingly detailed. One user wrote, "If you're watching this, it might already know you're here. Don't log off." That sentence alone made my chest tighten. I closed my laptop and sat in silence, the usual comfort of my room now feeling like a stage, a watched space. The contrast between reading about it online and living it in real time was suffocating. Online, the horror felt abstract, a story to scroll past or comment on. In my life, the terror was immediate and personal. Every notification, every flicker of my laptop, every shadow in the corner of my vision became a reminder. This was no story. This was happening. And yet, in the forums, there was also a strange kind of community, a morbid reassurance that I wasn't alone. People speculated endlessly about the origins of the videos, the limits of their reach, the possible rules governing them. Some claimed supernatural interference. Others swore it was a hacker or an AI gone rogue. I found myself reading late into the night, drawn to the mystery even as my fear intensified. I began leaving comments for others, small breadcrumbs. Mine knows me, every move, even my habits. Occasionally, someone would respond, sharing their own theories or urging caution. I turned to the audience, even if only in thought. If you're watching, leave a comment. Share your story. Maybe together we can figure this out. The idea that someone else might already be entangled, already at risk, made the fear more tangible. The threads became a mirror, reflecting not just my experience but a larger, unseen network of people who had encountered the same impossible phenomenon. By the end of the week, reading these threads had changed something in me. I felt both comforted and more terrified. Others had survived or at least lived to post about it. But their warnings were clear. This was evolving, growing, and nothing online could fully prepare me for what was coming next. It started with the small things, the personal actions that should have remained private. I was making a cup of tea one morning when the video froze on the exact moment I reached for the kettle. The frame lingered a little too long, and then a text appeared across the screen. Stir clockwise. My hand froze. I looked down at the kettle, then back at the video. My fingers twitched involuntarily, almost of their own accord, and I realized I had no idea if ignoring it was an option. By the next day, the video escalated. It wasn't just mirroring my routines anymore. It was predicting them and instructing me in subtle, unnerving ways. At one point, I watched in disbelief as it displayed my bedroom door from the angle of my hallway, then froze on the doorknob. A caption appeared, "Open it now." My stomach churned, and my hands shook as I approached. Minutes later, I found myself twisting the knob without conscious thought. When I stepped into the hall, there was nothing there. And yet, the dread had solidified, tangible and unshakable. I called Mira first. "You're not going to believe this," I whispered, voice tight with panic. The video, it knew I'd opened my door, told me to. Minutes before I even thought about it. There was silence on the line. Then, a shaky laugh. "Jenny, shh. That's insane. It's a video. Videos don't know things. You're freaking yourself out." "I'm not," I said, trying to steady my voice. "It's showing everything. Even things no one else could possibly see. My desk, my laptop, Mira, it even predicted I'd check my phone while we're talking." "Jenny, shh. I think you need to step away," she said finally, concern creeping through her skepticism. I hung up, heart racing. Her disbelief, which once felt like comic relief, now only highlighted my isolation. Every laugh, every dismissal from my friends, every insistence that I was imagining it, pushed me further into the corner of my own room, where the light from my laptop felt both protective and predatory. Then it happened. The video paused on a frame I hadn't expected. Me asleep at night. My room was dark, moonlight spilling over the bed. My laptop open on the desk beside me. A caption appeared, "Tomorrow, everything changes." My heart lurched. I tried to rationalize it. A deepfake, a clever AI, a coincidence. But the precision, the live nature of it, it was impossible. I began to notice subtle commands scattered throughout the video. "Do not look away. Pick up the phone. Leave the window open." Each one felt like a test. Each one felt like a trap. I knew that ignoring them might have consequences I couldn't comprehend. What happens if I don't follow the instructions? The thought gnawed at me constantly. Even as I tried to distance myself from the laptop, my room, the network, nothing worked. The video adapted. When I switched to a different browser, it was already open there. When I shut down my computer, the notification pinged on my phone. My privacy, my routines, my very sense of autonomy were no longer my own. I attempted to talk to Ravi over Discord. "This isn't funny anymore," I said, urgency spilling from my words. "It's watching me, predicting me. I don't know what it wants, but it's escalating." He scoffed, trying to mask nervousness. "Jenish, are you sure you're not just not imagining it?" I snapped. "It's showing me doing things I haven't done yet." Told me to open the door. It showed me pouring water into my glass 2 minutes before I even touched it. There was a long pause. I could hear him typing, then deleting, hesitating. Okay. Maybe it's a prank." I hung up before he could speak again. A part of me wanted comfort, someone to say it was okay. But I realized there was no comfort to be had. The world I had always trusted, my room, my devices, even my friends' words, had become a backdrop for something that didn't belong, something omniscient and patient. By evening, I tried to take control. I attempted to delete the video, to erase it from every device I owned. I cleared caches, changed passwords, even unplugged my router. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of relief, but it didn't last. The video reappeared, unlisted, untraceable, perfectly synchronized across devices, as if it had never left. And now, the commands were bolder. "Prepare. You have 1 hour." Panic settled in, thick and relentless. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, hide, disconnect completely, but the video seemed to anticipate every move. I tried recording myself documenting the strange commands, hoping proof would help, but even as I reviewed the footage, I realized the video had already predicted my reactions. Every blink, every hesitation, every whispered curse was captured, mirrored, known. The ordinary world I had once inhabited, the safe routines, the laughter of friends, the normal hum of devices, was gone. In its place was an omnipresent digital gaze, patient, calculating, and increasingly demanding. The realization sank in like ice in my veins. This was no longer observation. This was control. And control, I feared, would not be easily relinquished. I decided then that I had to break the connection, to sever the ties the video had wrapped around my life. I unplugged my router, removed the battery from my phone, and even disconnected my laptop from the charger. For a moment, it felt like breathing underwater. Temporary relief, the illusion of safety. I paced the room, tracing the same path I had walked countless times, checking doors, windows, the shadows cast by my desk lamp. I told myself I was taking control, but the relief was short-lived. The video didn't vanish. The second I powered my laptop back on, it was there again, unlisted, waiting. And now, it showed me standing in the middle of my room, scanning the environment for threats. I blinked, disoriented, and realized the video was recording my attempts to escape, anticipating every move I made. My heart hammered, chest tight. You might think this is impossible, but I can't make it stop. I tried changing my routines, doing things differently each day, but the video adapted instantly. I would pour coffee with my left hand instead of my right. The frame on the screen mirrored the action perfectly. I sat in a different corner of the room. The camera angle in the video had already shifted, capturing me exactly where I was. I even attempted to leave the house, to physically remove myself from the space. But the video predicted it all: footsteps, motions, timing. It was never behind me. It was always exactly where I was, waiting. Sleep became impossible. I lay awake in the dark, imagining eyes behind the screen, scanning, judging, learning. Shadows on the walls seemed alive. Shapes moved at the edge of my vision. I thought I heard whispers, faint murmurs of instructions I couldn't fully comprehend. Was I imagining it? Or was the video reaching beyond the screen into reality? Each blink, each creak of my floorboards, each faint hum of my laptop fan made me question my own mind. Hallucinations blurred the line between the digital and the physical, and I began doubting even my most basic perceptions. I started speaking aloud, narrating my actions as though voicing them could anchor me. I'm walking to the door. I'm turning the handle. I'm moving to the desk. Sometimes, I imagine the video responding, pausing, or adjusting its frame based on my words. Was it interacting? Learning from me in real time? The paranoia was suffocating. I could feel my sanity fraying. Like thin threads unraveling under tension I couldn't escape. Desperate, I even attempted isolation. Leaving devices behind, sitting in darkness with the blinds closed. But the video was already there. I would close my eyes, and I could see it in my mind, capturing my every action. I tried reasoning with myself, telling myself it was a trick of the algorithm, a glitch, something explainable, but the certainty that it was something else refused to leave. And then I realized, the fear was more than about me. It was about knowledge, secrets I wasn't meant to see, warnings I couldn't ignore. The video had access to something larger than my daily life, some omniscient pattern I was only beginning to understand. I began keeping notes, writing down every instruction, every movement, every eerie prediction, but each page felt insufficient. The video seemed limitless, always a step ahead. You might think this is impossible, I whispered to myself in a trembling voice, glancing at the blank walls of my room. But it's real, and it's everywhere I look. The idea that someone or something else might uncover secrets I couldn't understand, might see what I couldn't prevent, made the dread heavier. The video wasn't just personal anymore. It was a warning, a puzzle, and a threat all at once. By the end of that week, I realized something terrifying. No matter what I did, no matter how I tried to hide, disconnect, or change, the video would always anticipate me. My attempts at escape had only confirmed the inevitability of its predictions. Every movement, every thought, every hesitation had been recorded, mirrored, and possibly judged. The rules had shifted, and I was no longer playing a game I understood. The predictions were coming, and I could only wait, powerless, as the countdown in my mind ticked closer to the moment I had tried to outrun but could never truly escape. The video didn't just hint at danger anymore. It told me exactly when, where, and how. My screen flickered, and the caption appeared in jagged white letters. Tomorrow, 11:47 p.m. Your front door, choice of compliance or consequence. My fingers froze over the keyboard. My mind screamed at me to turn it off, to ignore it, to believe this was impossible. But the precision, the certainty of it was undeniable. I debated what to do. Follow the instructions and hope the warning was merely symbolic? Or resist and risk whatever consequence the video had promised? My pulse raced, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. I thought of my parents, my friends, the life I'd taken for granted, too ordinary, too mundane, and yet now infinitely fragile. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, but rationality, or what remained of it, struggled to assert itself. The video paused on a frame of my front door. The time ticked upward on the screen, a digital clock perfectly synced to reality. The frame froze for a long, suffocating moment, and then the instructions continued. Step forward or step aside. Choice is yours. Defiance has consequences. My hands shook. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. My eyes were drawn, trapped by curiosity and terror. I thought of you, whoever is watching this. If you continue, you might see the same fate. I couldn't stop, even if I wanted to. I called Mira, my voice cracking. It's telling me everything. The time, the place, the choice. I don't know what to do. She was silent for a long moment. Jenny, maybe you need help, she said finally. Call someone. Don't face it alone. I hung up. There was no one I could trust fully. The dread pressed against me like a physical weight. Every shadow, every flicker of light, every whisper of wind outside my window felt amplified. I recorded my last words, knowing they might be all that survived if the predictions came true. My camera captured the fear etched into my face, the tremor in my hands, the desperate, unspoken prayers for an outcome I didn't control. Minutes dragged into hours. I tried to distract myself, pacing, muttering, documenting every detail, but the inevitability was inescapable. The video's instructions weren't suggestions, they were mandates. It had anticipated every attempt at defiance. Every alternative route I tried had been predicted, mirrored, accounted for. And then the final warning appeared. Decision must be made. You have 5 minutes. My chest tightened. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It matched the countdown perfectly. Time wasn't just passing. It was being measured, controlled, dictated by the unseen presence behind the screen. I could feel it, patient and relentless, waiting for me to act. I debated, reasoning with myself in fragments. Follow the instructions and survive, at least temporarily, or defy and risk the unknown. The video had already shown me possible outcomes, each more terrifying than the last. And yet, in the corner of my mind, a flicker of rebellion stirred, small and fragile, refusing total surrender. I spoke into the camera one last time. If you're watching this, pay attention. The rules aren't clear, and the outcome isn't guaranteed. But know this, whatever this is, it's real. It's watching, and it knows more than I ever imagined. My words trembled, a mix of warning, confession, and plea. The clock ticked down. The video froze once more on my front door, the final frame shimmering like a heat wave over reality itself. Every muscle in my body tensed, my heart hammering, my breath shallow. Outside, the world seemed ordinary, calm, but I knew it wasn't. Nothing would ever be ordinary again. I reached for the door handle, recording my every movement, my last attempt to assert control over what was coming. And then, at 11:47 p.m., the frame blinked, matching the exact second. Everything hung suspended in that impossible moment, my choice looming, my fate unknown, leaving only the chilling question. What happens if I don't comply? The moment passed. My hand hovered over the door handle, the last flicker of light from the video dancing across my face. And then, nothing. Silence. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums, leaving every small creak or hum amplified in the emptiness. My breath rattled in my chest. I glanced at the clock. 11:48 p.m. The video was gone. No frame, no caption, no trace of the unlisted account that had been watching, predicting, commanding. My devices were eerily normal, screens black, notifications absent, the hum of electricity barely audible. For a long moment, I sat frozen, trying to convince myself it had ended, that perhaps compliance or defiance didn't matter, that I was still alive. My phone remained silent. My laptop, once a conduit of omniscient dread, was now just a laptop again. But deep down, I knew the absence was not reassurance. It was waiting, the calm before a storm. I checked every corner of my room, every device, every app, every browser tab. Nothing. Everything seemed ordinary, normal. And yet, I could feel the residue of its presence in my mind, the way it had tracked, predicted, learned. My own instincts felt compromised, as if the part of me that had resisted, that had made choices, had already been anticipated, recorded, and cataloged somewhere beyond my comprehension. I reached for the camera where I had been recording, hoping to preserve some proof. The files were intact, but in the last frames, I noticed something that hadn't been there before. Subtle distortions, flickers, shadows that seemed to move just slightly off-frame, as if the video's influence lingered even in recordings of it. I tried to rationalize it, compression artifacts, editing errors, paranoia, but the feeling of being watched, of being remembered, refused to leave. I called Mira and Ravi the next day. They laughed off the tension, joked about late-night editing or viral AI filters. But I could tell they weren't seeing what I had seen. The isolation had deepened, a quiet reminder that this wasn't just a story, a thread, or a prank. It had touched me personally, and no one else could fully comprehend it. Late that evening, I received a notification from an account I didn't recognize. It was a single line of text. "Did you follow the instructions?" My hands froze on the keyboard. I didn't respond. I didn't know if I could. The message was gone moments later, but the impression lingered. An invisible tether stretching across the digital void, reminding me that the rules hadn't ended, only paused. I started leaving hints in forums, cryptic comments about what had happened, fragments of warning, hoping someone else might piece together the pattern before it found them. Yet even in sharing, the fear persisted that the video, or whatever force had orchestrated it, was still learning, still watching, and perhaps now watching me through the posts I made. And then, like a memory that refuses to fade, I realized something chilling. The silence, the calm, the disappearance of the video, none of it meant safety. The unknown remained, a shadow behind my everyday life. I could move, I could live, but the sense of inevitability, the awareness that I had glimpsed something forbidden, had left an indelible mark. It was not gone. It was merely waiting, patient, beyond the screen. So here I am, sharing this with you, whoever you are watching. If you think this is over, think again. The evidence, the predictions, the instructions, they exist in fragments, echoes that may find you next. And the most terrifying part? If you're watching this, it might already